Admiral NX Vala stood at the command center of the Eternal Victory, their flagship's designation a testament to the Catherian Empire's unbroken string of successful planetary conquests. Their iridescent scales shimmed under the soft blue light of the holographic displays, for eyes focused intently on the spinning image of Earth before them. Another primitive world, Sub-Commander Raxley noted, their secondary appendages twitching with anticipation. Preliminary scans show they've barely achieved basic space flight. NX Vala's mouth tentacles curled in what passed for a smile among their species. Primitive, yes, but look at these population numbers. Billions of potential workers for the Empire. The Council will be pleased. The bridge crew, all veterans of countless conquests, went about their preparations with practiced efficiency. They had done this hundreds of times before: approach, demonstrate overwhelming force, accept surrender, and begin integration into the Empire. It was a dance they knew well. Deploy the first wave, NX Vala commanded. Standard protocol: target their largest military installations. Let's show them the futility of resistance. The order rippled through the fleet. Thousands of energy weapons powered up, their distinctive purple glow illuminating Earth's night side like artificial auroras. The weapons were the pride of Catherian military technology, capable of disrupting nervous systems across entire continents, rendering populations helpless without destroying valuable infrastructure. Firing solutions computed, Weapons Officer Zeltak announced. Beginning bombardment. NX Vala watched with satisfaction as the first salvos struck Earth's surface. The energy weapons had proven devastating against every species they'd encountered, causing immediate nervous system shutdown in most forms of life. They expected to see immediate results: mass paralysis, communications blackouts, panic. Instead, their sensors showed nothing. Status report, NX Vala demanded, all four eyes narrowing. Sir, Zeltak's voice carried an unfamiliar note of confusion. The weapons are functioning perfectly, but the humans are still moving. Still fighting. Impossible. NX Vala moved closer to the tactical display. Increase power to maximum. Target their military command center specifically. The second wave of attacks went out, more powerful than the first. The energy weapon's distinctive purple glow now bathed entire continents. Surely this would bring the primitives to their knees. But the impossible continued to happen. Human military forces not only remained functional, they were beginning to respond. Primitive projectile weapons and crude missiles launched skyward, most harmlessly impacting their shields, but the very fact that they could still fight was unprecedented. Sir, Science Officer Mechtrau called out, their voice trembling. I'm analyzing the data from our attacks. The humans, their nervous systems are unlike anything we've encountered. They're adapting to the energy patterns in real time. Some are showing signs of complete immunity after just one exposure. NX Vala's scales darkened, a sign of deep distress among their kind. In all their centuries of conquest, they had never encountered a species that could resist their primary weapons. The entire Catherian military doctrine was built around these weapons' effectiveness. Launch ground forces, they ordered, trying to maintain their commanding presence despite the growing unease. We'll do this the old way if we must. Drop ships descended through Earth's atmosphere, carrying the Empire's elite shock troops. The Catherian warriors, encased in battle armor that had proven invincible on 100 worlds, landed in what their intelligence indicated was a moderately defended human military base. The reports that came back shook NX Vala to their core. They're fighting hand to hand, a ground commander reported, voice filled with disbelief. Our armor isn't, they're stronger than they look. And they don't stop. We hit them with enough force to shatter bones, and they keep coming. They're adapting to our tactics faster than we can implement them. NX Vala watched in growing horror as the tactical displays showed Catherian ground forces being pushed back. The humans weren't just resistant to their weapons, they were resilient in ways that defied everything the Empire knew about biological life forms. They watched through drone feeds as injured humans continued fighting despite wounds that should have been incapacitating, as human soldiers demonstrated strength and endurance that seemed impossible for their size. "Full retreat," NX Vala finally ordered, their voice heavy with the weight of making history, the first Catherian admiral to ever order a retreat. "Get our ground forces back to the ships. We need to regroup and reassess." As the Catherian forces pulled back into orbit, NX Vala stared at the blue-green world below, their certainty shaken to its foundations. They had arrived expecting another routine conquest. Instead, they had discovered something unprecedented, a species that not only resisted their most powerful weapons but seemed to grow stronger from the attempt. "Send word to the High Command," they ordered, knowing this would change everything. Tell them we've encountered something new. Something that requires immediate attention from the Council." As the message was transmitted across the vast distances to the Empire's capital, NX Vala continued to study the sensor readings from Earth. The humans were already adapting their defensive strategies, learning from the brief encounter, preparing for the next attack. They showed no signs of panic, no indication of surrender. Perhaps, NX Vala mused, speaking more to themselves than their crew, we should have studied them longer before attacking. There's something about these humans, something we don't understand. The Eternal Victory's engines hummed as they maintained their orbital position, and for the first time in their long career, Admiral NX Vala felt something they had never experienced before, doubt. Not just about this conquest, but about everything they thought they knew about their place in the galaxy. As the first reports of human counterattacks reached their command center, NX Vala realized this was only the beginning. They had not just failed to conquer Earth, they had awakened something that might reshape the very foundations of their empire. The question was, what would they do about it? Dr. Kelthar's laboratory aboard the research vessel Infinite Query hummed with activity. Holographic displays filled the room with a soft, pulsing light, each showing different aspects of human physiology. The xenobiologist's six-fingered hands moved rapidly across the control surfaces, adjusting parameters and analyzing data streams from their latest experiments. "Impossible," they muttered, their secondary brain stem throbbing with the effort of processing so much contradictory information. "Every test yields the same results, but they defy everything we know about biological evolution." Their assistant, junior researcher Vixna, entered the lab carrying new data crystals. "The latest field recordings from Earth, Doctor. The humans have begun actively targeting our observation drones, but we managed to collect significant data before losing them." Kelthar absorbed the crystals into their neural interface, their scaled skin rippling as the information flooded their consciousness. The humans had not only survived the initial invasion attempt but were rapidly developing countermeasures against Catherian technology. It was unprecedented. "Look at this," they gestured to Vixna, expanding a holographic model of human cellular structure. "Their ability to adapt isn't just behavioral, it's coded into their very cells. These creatures evolved on a death world, Vixna. Everything about their biology speaks of constant survival pressure." The hologram shifted, showing human muscle fiber density compared to other known species. Their physical strength isn't just about muscle mass. Their nervous system can recruit a higher percentage of muscle fibers simultaneously than any species we've encountered. Most beings can only access about 30% of their theoretical maximum strength. Humans? They can access up to 100% in crisis situations. Vixna's sensory frills extended in surprise. "But the energy cost must be enormous. How do they survive such expenditure?" "That's just it," Kelthar manipulated the display again, showing human metabolic readings. "Their bodies are incredibly efficient at energy storage and usage. They can go days without food, push themselves to physical extremes, and still recover. And their regenerative capabilities. They brought up footage from the ground invasion, showing a human soldier continuing to fight despite injuries that would have incapacitated most species. Their healing factor isn't just about speed, it's about adaptation. Each injury makes them stronger, more resistant. They don't just heal, they improve. Kelthar's voice carried a note of both fear and admiration. A priority communication alert interrupted their analysis. Admiral NX-Vala's holographic form materialized in the lab. "Dr. Kelthar, please tell me you have something useful. The humans have destroyed another observation post, and their technological advancement rate is concerning." Kelthar straightened their posture, all four eye stalks focusing on the Admiral. "Sir, these humans, they're unlike anything in our database. Their planet should be classified as a death world of the highest order. The gravity, the atmospheric composition, the background radiation levels, everything about their environment should make advanced civilization impossible. Instead, it created something extraordinary." The doctor brought up a comparison display. "Most species evolve to fill a specific niche, developing specialized adaptations. Humans? They're generalists of the highest order. They can survive in almost any environment, eat almost anything, and their bodies can adapt to nearly any physical challenge. But that's not the most remarkable thing." "What is?" NX-Vala demanded. "Their psychological resilience." Kelthar displayed brain scan comparisons. "Most species, including our own, have clear breaking points, stress thresholds beyond which we cannot function. Humans? Their stress response actually enhances their performance. The more we push them, the stronger they become. Not just individually, but as a species." Vixna interjected, "We've observed them sharing information about our weapons, developing countermeasures, and improving their technology at an alarming rate. Their ability to learn from adversity is unprecedented." Admiral NX-Vala's hologram flickered as they processed this information. "Are you saying they're invincible?" "No," Kelthar replied, "but they might as well be for our current military doctrine. Our weapons were designed to overwhelm nervous systems, but human nervous systems are too adaptable. We're essentially helping them become immune to our technology with each attack." The Admiral's scales darkened. "Then what do you suggest?" Kelthar hesitated, their secondary heart racing at the magnitude of what they were about to propose. "Sir, I believe we need to fundamentally re-evaluate our approach. The humans have something we've never encountered before, not just physical resilience, but a kind of collaborative adaptation. They don't just survive, they learn, improve, and share that knowledge instantly across their global information networks. Are you suggesting we abandon the conquest?" NX-Vala's voice carried a dangerous edge. "I'm suggesting we consider the possibility that we've discovered something more valuable than another conquered world." Kelthar brought up their latest analysis. "Their adaptability, their resilience, if we could understand it, learn from it, it could revolutionize our own society." Before the Admiral could respond, new alarms blared through the research vessel. Vixna rushed to a monitoring station. "Doctor, Admiral, the humans have launched a counterattack. They're using modified versions of our own energy weapons against us." Kelthar's scales paled. "They've already reversed-engineered our technology?" "That's impossible. It's only been weeks since first contact." Admiral NX-Vala's hologram showed clear signs of distress. "Doctor, I need solutions, not just analysis. Can we stop them?" Kelthar stared at the flood of new data, watching as human forces demonstrated capabilities that should have taken centuries to develop. "Sir, I don't think we can stop them. But perhaps we need to start thinking about talking to them instead." The lab fell silent as the implications of that statement hung in the air. In the Catherian Empire's long history, they had never considered negotiating with a species they had attempted to conquer. But as Kelthar watched the humans continue to adapt and evolve in real time, they realized that this situation required something new. Something as adaptable as the humans themselves. Lieutenant Mira X stood before the encrypted communication terminal, their bioluminescent patches pulsing with anxiety. What they were about to do constituted high treason against the Catherian Empire, but after weeks of watching the failed invasion attempt, they had come to a devastating conclusion: their empire wasn't just wrong, it was on the wrong side of history. "Terminal secure," whispered tech specialist Jorvan, their friend and co-conspirator. "The quantum scramblers should keep this off the main fleet sensors, but we have maybe 20 minutes before someone notices the power fluctuation." Mira X nodded, their 4 eyes fixed on the screen as it connected to the human resistance frequency they'd identified. After several tense moments, a face appeared, Colonel Diana Morgan of the United Earth Defense Force, her dark skin illuminated by emergency lighting. "This is unexpected," Morgan said, her voice carefully neutral. "Our intelligence suggested the Catherian military operated on strict hierarchical controls." "It does," Mira X replied, trying to keep their voice steady. "But some of us have been watching. Learning. Your species, you've shown us something we never thought possible." Morgan's eyes narrowed. "And what's that?" "That strength doesn't come from dominance. It comes from adaptation. From cooperation." Mira X glanced at Jorvan, who was monitoring the security feeds. "We want to help. Why should we trust you?" Morgan demanded. "Your fleet tried to conquer our world. Because we've seen what happens to species that resist the Empire. None have ever survived, until you. You didn't just survive, you thrived. You took our weapons and improved them. You studied our tactics and countered them. You did in weeks what takes most species centuries." Mira X transmitted a data packet. "These are the access codes to the fleet's secondary defense grid. You'll find them useful in your next counterattack. And there's more where that came from." Morgan studied something off-screen, presumably the transmitted data. "This is legitimate," another voice confirmed from her end. Her expression remained guarded, but there was a new interest in her eyes. "How many of you are there?" she asked. "How many Catherians share your view?" "More than the High Command suspects," Mira X replied. "The young ones especially. We've been raised on stories of the Empire's invincibility, but watching you, it's opened our eyes. We've begun to question everything." A warning light flashed on Jorvan's console. 3 minutes until the next security sweep, Lieutenant." Mira X's scales rippled with urgency. "We need to go, but we'll contact you again. Watch for signal pattern Delta 9 in your next engagement. Those ships will be commanded by officers sympathetic to our cause." "Wait," Morgan called out. "Why are you really doing this? What do you hope to gain?" Mira X paused, all 4 eyes blinking in sequence as they considered the question. "Hope," they finally answered. "Your species has shown us that change is possible. That adaptation is stronger than tradition. We want to be part of that change." The transmission ended, and Mira X quickly helped Jorvan erase all traces of their communication. As they walked back to their posts, trying to appear normal, Mira X's mind raced with possibilities. Their small act of rebellion set off a chain reaction throughout the fleet. Over the next few weeks, more young officers made contact with human forces. Information flowed both ways: Catherian technology secrets to the humans, and human tactical innovations to the rebel Catherians. The movement grew in secret, spreading through encrypted channels and coded messages. Young Catherian officers watched in amazement as humans demonstrated not just physical resilience, but an incredible capacity for forgiveness and cooperation with those who chose to ally with them. During a major battle 3 weeks later, nearly a quarter of the Catherian fleet broke formation when the humans attacked, their weapons powered down in a silent show of support. Admiral NX Vala watched in horror as their carefully planned defense fell apart, not understanding that the real revolution wasn't on the battlefield, it was in the hearts and minds of their own people. Mira X found themselves in an increasingly central role in the growing rebellion. Their quarters became a secret meeting place where young officers gathered to share stories of human adaptability and courage. They studied human history, fascinated by a species that had survived countless natural disasters, wars, and challenges, emerging stronger each time. "Look at this," Jorvan explained to a group of fellow rebels, displaying footage from Earth's history. "They nearly destroyed themselves multiple times, but each crisis led to new innovations, new ways of thinking. They don't just survive, they learn, adapt, improve." The young Catherians were particularly fascinated by human art and culture, by the way humans use stories to process and learn from their experiences. They began sharing their own stories, creating a new narrative about what their civilization could become. As the weeks passed, the alliance between rebel Catherians and humans grew stronger. Human scientists worked alongside Catherian defectors, combining their technologies in ways neither species had imagined possible. Human military strategists shared their expertise in adaptive warfare, while Catherian engineers helped improve Earth's defensive capabilities. But it was the personal connections that proved most revolutionary. Humans, despite having every reason to hate all Catherians, showed a remarkable capacity for distinguishing between the Empire's actions and individual Catherians who chose a different path. During one joint operation, a human squad risked their lives to save a group of trapped Catherian rebels. The incident became legendary among the young officers, proof that there was another way besides the Empire's philosophy of dominance and control. Mira X stood in their quarters one evening, watching Earth rotate below through their viewport. Their communication device chimed, another encrypted message from Colonel Morgan. "The main assault is planned for tomorrow," Morgan's voice came through clearly. "Are your people ready?" Mira X thought of all the young officers who had joined their cause, of the bonds formed between their species, of the future they could build together. "We're ready," they replied. "The Empire won't know what hit them." "Just remember," Morgan added, "this isn't about revenge. It's about creating something new." "We understand," Mira X assured her. "Your species taught us that the greatest victory isn't defeating an enemy, it's turning them into allies." As they ended the transmission, Mira X felt their scales shimmer with an emotion their species rarely experienced: hope. Tomorrow would bring the largest battle in Catherian history, but the most important war had already been won, the war of ideas, of possibility, of change. The Empire had come to Earth expecting to find another conquest. Instead, they found a mirror, a species that showed them what they could become if they dared to adapt, to change, to grow. And tomorrow, the galaxy would never be the same. Admiral NX Vala's command center aboard the Eternal Victory had become a chamber of chaos. Emergency alerts flashed across every display as reports of desertion and sabotage poured in from across the fleet. The Admiral's scales had turned an ashen gray, a sign of extreme distress among their species. "Another battle group has gone dark," Subcommander Raxley reported, their voice trembling. "The 7th Fleet, they're transmitting human recognition codes now." NX Vala's secondary heart nearly stopped. The 7th Fleet had been their most reliable unit, commanded by veterans of 100 conquests. "How many ships have we lost to these traitors?" "Nearly 40% of our total force," Tactical Officer Zeltak answered, their sensor frills drooping in shame. "And the humans, they're not attacking like primitives anymore. They're using our own formations against us, improved somehow." The main display lit up with new warning signals as a massive human fleet emerged from hyperspace. But these weren't the crude vessels they'd faced in the initial invasion. These ships bristled with hybrid technology, Catherian energy weapons merged with human innovation, creating something entirely new. And among them flew ships of obvious Catherian design, their hull markings modified to show allegiance to what they were calling the Alliance for Galactic Liberation. "Admiral," Communications Officer Tekra called out, "we're receiving a transmission." It's Lieutenant Mira X." The young officer's image appeared on the main screen, flanked by a human female in a military uniform. NX Vala recognized her from intelligence briefings, Colonel Diana Morgan, one of the architects of Earth's resistance. Admiral NX Vala, Mira X spoke, their voice carrying none of the traditional deference junior officers were expected to show. The Empire's time has come to an end. Surrender your forces, and be part of building something better. Traitor, NX Vala spat. You would throw away 10,000 years of Catherian supremacy for these primitives? Look around you, Admiral, Morgan stepped forward. Your primitives have done what no species has ever done, shown you that there's strength in adaptation, in cooperation. Your own people are choosing a different path. As if to emphasize her point, another Catherian battle group dropped out of hyperspace, immediately broadcasting Alliance recognition codes. NX Vala watched in horror as more and more ships declared their allegiance to the rebellion. All ships, battle formations. NX Vala commanded, but even as they gave the order, they could see it was futile. The combined human rebel fleet had them surrounded, using tactics that seemed to anticipate their every move. The battle that followed would be remembered for generations in both human and Catherian history. The Alliance forces didn't just fight with superior numbers, they fought with superior strategy, using innovations that merged the best of both species' military traditions. Human ships demonstrated impossible maneuvers, their crews somehow able to withstand G-forces that should have knocked them unconscious. Rebel Catherian vessels used modified versions of their energy weapons, transformed by human insights into something far more effective than the originals. From their command center, NX Vala watched their perfect record of victories crumble. Ships they had commanded for decades turned their weapons on former comrades. Young officers they had trained themselves coordinated attacks with human squadrons, showing levels of tactical creativity the Empire had never encouraged. Admiral, Raxley's voice was barely a whisper, the engine core, the rebels have transmitted some kind of human-computer virus. We're losing power to all major systems. NX Vala stared at the tactical display, watching as the mighty Eternal Victory, pride of the Catherian fleet, gradually went dark. Around them, the battle was turning into a rout. Alliance forces weren't just winning, they were winning while minimizing casualties on both sides, something the Empire had never bothered to attempt. Sir, Tekare called out again, we're receiving surrender signals from over 60% of our remaining loyal ships. For the first time in their long career, NX Vala felt something they had never experienced before, respect for an enemy. No, not an enemy anymore, for a force that had proven itself superior not through dominance, but through adaptation and cooperation. Open a channel, they finally ordered, their voice heavy with the weight of history. To all ships still loyal to the Empire. Stand down. I repeat, stand down. The bridge fell silent as the mighty Admiral NX Vala, terror of 1,000 worlds, submitted to the inevitable. As Alliance ships moved in to secure the Eternal Victory, NX Vala watched human and Catherian crews working together with seamless coordination. Colonel Morgan and Lieutenant Mira X personally led the boarding party that entered the bridge. To NX Vala's surprise, they didn't come with weapons drawn, but with hands extended in a gesture of peace. Your empire is finished, Admiral, Morgan stated, but your people don't have to be. Join us. Help us build something new. NX Vala looked at their former subordinate, Mira X, seeing not a traitor but a pioneer. How, they asked, genuine curiosity breaking through their defeat. How did you do it? How did you turn our greatest weapon against us? Mira X's scales shifted to a color of pride. We didn't turn anything against you, Admiral. The humans showed us something we had forgotten in our rush for dominance, that true strength comes from the ability to change, to grow, to work together. They didn't beat us with weapons, they beat us with ideas. As the Alliance forces secured the fleet, news of the Empire's defeat spread across the galaxy. On 1,000 worlds, oppressed species looked to Earth with wonder and hope. The humans hadn't just resisted conquest, they had transformed their would-be conquerors into allies. And aboard the Eternal Victory, as human and Catherian crews worked together to chart a new course, Admiral NX Vala finally understood what Dr. Keldar had tried to tell them at the beginning: humanity's greatest weapon wasn't their resilience or their adaptability. It was their capacity to imagine a better way. 5 years after the Battle of Earth, the Great Hall of the Galactic Concordat buzzed with activity. The massive chamber, built in orbit around Earth, represented everything the Alliance had achieved, a perfect blend of Catherian engineering and human design principles, where representatives from both species could meet in comfort despite their different atmospheric needs. Former Admiral NX Vala, now serving as the Catherian representative to the Concordat's Council, stood at the observation window. Their scales had taken on the deep blue of contentment as they watched ships from dozens of species moving through the space lanes below. Earth had become the center of a new interstellar civilization, one built on cooperation rather than conquest. Still hard to believe sometimes, isn't it? Dr. Keldar approached, their research robes now bearing the insignia of the Joint Species Development Institute. I remember when you called me a dreamer for suggesting we could learn from the humans. NX Vala's mouth tentacles curled in what humans had learned to recognize as a smile. You were right, old friend. Though I doubt even you imagined how far this would go. They gestured to the scene before them. Ships of human design now incorporated Catherian biotechnology, while Catherian vessels had been revolutionized by human innovations in artificial intelligence and adaptive systems. But the real changes went far deeper than technology. The great doors opened, admitting Colonel, now Ambassador, Diana Morgan and Lieutenant Mira X, who had become one of the most respected diplomatic liaisons between the two species. The years had added some gray to Morgan's hair, while Mira X's scales had developed the complex pattern markings of a Catherian who had achieved inner harmony. The education exchange program numbers just came in, Morgan announced, her face bright with enthusiasm. We've got over 10,000 Catherian youth applying to study on Earth, and almost as many human students wanting to attend academies in former Empire space. And the medical breakthroughs continue, Mira X added. The combination of human cellular regeneration research and Catherian biotechnology has cured diseases that plagued both our species for millennia. Dr. Keldar's sensory frills quivered with excitement. The latest research into human adaptability has revolutionized our understanding of evolution itself. We've identified the genetic factors that make humans so resilient, and we're finding ways to ethically incorporate those traits into other species' medical treatments. Their conversation was interrupted by a soft chime, indicating the start of today's main event. The chamber filled with representatives from both species, along with observers from dozens of formerly subjugated worlds. Today marked the ratification of the Galactic Concordat's most ambitious project yet, the Resilience Initiative. Morgan took the podium first, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber's perfect acoustics. 5 years ago, our species met in conflict. The Empire saw Earth as just another world to conquer. Instead, they found partners in building a better galaxy. Mira X joined her at the podium. We Catherians thought we were strong because we could dominate others. Humans showed us that true strength comes from the ability to adapt, to change, to work together. They turned enemies into allies not through force, but through understanding. The announcement screens displayed images of the initiative's first projects, joint colonies where humans and Catherians would live together, sharing their strengths and helping each other overcome their weaknesses. Research stations where scientists from both species worked to solve the galaxy's greatest challenges. Military academies where human adaptability and Catherian discipline combined to create peacekeepers rather than conquerors. NX Vala watched with pride as their former subordinates, both human and Catherian, presented plans for the future. The Empire had sought to add Earth to its list of conquests. Instead, Earth had given them something far more valuable, a new way of seeing the universe and their place in it. In the years since the failed invasion, both species had changed. Humans had gained access to technologies they might have taken centuries to develop on their own, while Catherians had learned to value adaptation and innovation over tradition and control. But perhaps the most profound change was in how they saw themselves. The humans had proved that being strong didn't mean having to stand alone, while the Catherians had discovered that true power came from the ability to change and grow. As the ceremony concluded, NX Vala found themselves in conversation with a group of young Catherian officers, the next generation who would never know the Empire's rigid hierarchy. They spoke excitedly about their human friends, about new ideas and possibilities, about a future without limits. "Did you ever imagine this?" Morgan asked, joining them at the window. "When you first arrived at Earth, did you ever think it would end like this?" NX Vala's scales shifted through several colors as they considered the question. "No," they admitted. "We came looking for another conquest. Instead, we found salvation. Your species taught us that the greatest victory isn't in defeating an enemy, but in making them your strongest ally." Outside the window, Earth gleamed like a jewel against the black of space. But now it wasn't just humanity's homeworld, it was the birthplace of something new, a civilization that combined the best of both species. The humans' incredible resilience and adaptability had not only helped them survive an invasion, it had transformed their invaders into partners in building a better future. As the gathering began to disperse, Dr. Kelthar made one final observation. "You know what the most remarkable thing is? We thought we were studying human resilience, trying to understand how they survived our weapons. But what we really discovered was our own capacity for change." Morgan smiled. "That's the thing about resilience. Sometimes it's not just about surviving hardship. Sometimes it's about learning to see the universe in a whole new way." And as the first stars began to appear in Earth's evening sky, visible through the Great Hall's transparent dome, representatives of both species stood together, watching their shared future unfold. The Empire had fallen, but something far greater had risen in its place, a civilization built on the understanding that the greatest strength comes not from domination, but from the courage to change and grow together. The humans' greatest weapon had never been their physical resilience. It had been their ability to imagine, and help others imagine, a better way. And that, perhaps, was the most powerful force in the universe.